The last time I paid to go to the cinema to see an MCU movie was for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, all the way back in 2017, 8 years ago. Since then, I have missed the much hyped Black Panther, the controversial Captain America, the massive Infinity War and Endgame, and the entirety of the Multiverse Saga of Phases 4 and 5, ignoring Deadpool and Wolverine. I watched a lot of the reviews online and enjoyed the outrage and backlash they've generated, but one thing that hasn't happened is my feeling like I've missed out. I actually gave up caring after Captain America Civil War, but Guardians 2 was too tempting, yet not good enough to get my anticipation juices flowing. A whole bunch of new films and new characters have come out, both on the big screen and Disney+, and there was even Sony's attempt at starting its own Marvel universe that has led to some of the most hilarious fan reactions and studio decisions in history. I had contemplated going to see Madame Web to see what all the fuss was about, but then I remembered that I'm a person and it wasn't worth it. But a new film has come out, one that officially closes Phase 5. It's called Thunderbolts asterisk, and it's Marvel's latest attempt at bringing non-league comic book characters into the big time, just like they did with the Eternals. And look how well that went. It had a reported budget of $180 million, which would sound like a lot is riding on this. But in this day and age, that amount of money isn't that big a deal to drop on 2 hours of content. And that's what it feels like, content. Or more like content within content. To really understand what's going on, you really need to have done homework. The great thing about a cinematic universe is that each film can be a small part of a larger narrative. The downside is that each film is dependent on the previous, and Thunderbolts asterisk feels like an episode in a larger series. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's hard to enjoy it without knowing the backstory from Falcon and Winter Soldier, Black Widow, and Captain America Brave New World. It starts off with Yelena, sister of Black Widow, completing a mission to blow up a lab in Kuala Lumpur, while moaning about how depressed she feels. This will be actually the recurring theme. We then cut to a Senate hearing and meet our antagonist, Valentina Alegre de Fontaine, whom I shall refer to as Tulsi Gabbard, because that's basically who she's supposed to be. It's shamelessly unsubtle and quite boring. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with referencing political figures as bad guys, but it's always one side that gets the treatment, and they didn't even do it in an interesting or imaginative way. At least the Donald Trump character in Wonder Woman 1984 was somewhat cartoonish, and his hair wasn't as crazy. She sends Yelena to a secret facility on a false premise, but others have been sent to, all of whom have backstories that require said homework to understand. I didn't realise there had been a Captain America other than the obvious two. The whole thing is a setup to kill them, including a man called Bob, who had been kept in some sort of suspended animation storage that even Tulsi didn't know about. All but one of them escape, thanks to the magic of plot convenience, but have to trick their way through terrible soldiers, during which Bob reveals a hint of superpowers he didn't know he had, flying high then crashing into the ground. The others escape and get picked up by Red Guardian after he conveniently overheard Tulsi's plot while conveniently working as her limo driver. Apparently a senior government official with a massive secret organisation behind her doesn't employ anyone to do due diligence on transient staff. Still feels okay blurting out details she should be somewhat more circumspect about. At a secret facility, Bob revives and Valentina manipulates him to take on the role of the Sentry, the project she was hiding and for which he had been a test subject. All the others have been killed, but for some reason he was preserved in a high-tech box and sent to the mountain Big Yellow storage. Was this something in a previous film or series? Joined by the Winter Soldier, the new group, whom the Red Guardian calls the Thunderbolts for a very stupid reason, goes back to New York to confront Valentina. In the day or two that have passed, I assume, Bob has been transformed, and the powers that were latent unknown have now become mastered, and he defeats the group with ease. They have a series of hissy fits with each other and flounce off. Sentry Bob decides not to follow orders, gets killed with a failsafe switch that had been built in some sort of record time, and for some reason this turns him completely black and he's now the Void, turning people into shadows and casting a big one over the city for some reason. After the Thunderbolts save dozens of people from falling masonry, Yelena decides to step into the shadows, finds herself in a forest, reliving a traumatic moment from her childhood. Guess what? She faces the darkness inside, but soon finds Bob, as he was when they first met, reliving his own trauma. The others join in the fun, and they rush through various other trauma scenes and end up back at the lab in Malaysia, where the Void version is waiting for them. Guess what? Bob fights his darkness, which slowly takes over him with each angry punch, It's only defeated by the Thunderbolts showing him caring and love. Then they're back in the real world, and Tulsi saves herself with a press conference that has somehow been put together in the middle of a 9/11 zone, where she announces them as the new Avengers. The end. Yep, $180 million on that script. Certainly wasn't spent on the CGI, which is decent, but not very expensive. For a superhero movie, there's not a lot of it, so God only knows where they were spending the money. I don't know what to make of this. Having not invested any time or money in the MCU in 8 years, I can't say I felt involved. I did appreciate them not doing any kind of quick expository setup of the main characters. It certainly would have helped, but this is a part of a larger narrative. For those who've kept up, it would have been a bit of a ball ache, so they had the guts to assume the audience is up to speed. I just don't get why they needed to spend so much money on something that is always going to be limited. It's only been out a few days, so it's not clear how the box office is going, but it's projected to pretty much make back its production budget domestically. It's hard to say what it will do internationally, and the box office share with cinemas is very different around the world. But surely a minimum of $500 million is needed for this to be seen as adequate. That's a lot for a movie about superheroes no one outside the comic book world has ever heard of. Why did they spend close to $200 million on this? Were they trying to get some sort of amazing spectacle? And did they really think that would help? To be fair, the screen was full when I went to see it, so this is no Snow White. But that was on the opening night, and it's a bank holiday weekend in the UK. What's going to happen next week? I think there will be a massive drop-off, and most of the hardcore Marvel fans will have seen it as soon as it came out. I can't see there being too many casual viewers. They have Sinners, Warfare, and Until Dawn to enjoy. This is just about okay for me with my residual knowledge of recent MCU. But any less than that, and this is meaningless. Phase 6 starts soon. Secret Wars will be a thing, which was a comic series that I enjoyed as a kid. It was an epic story that was split into 2 parts with every superhero involved. The trailer for Doomsday has already shown the absurdity of the plethora of characters involved, so I'm not holding out any hope of it being any good. I feel that Thunderbolts asterisk is as good as ever going to get for the MCU, but there's always hope. Who knows? Maybe James Gunn will have finally fixed the DCU. Yeah, right.